Okay, I'm coming. I'm coming. Okay, yet another one in the series of going through the old stock market book and seeing what might be marketable or categories that might still be in demand. So in trying to photograph for stock, the idea of just photographing anything, they'll buy it. It doesn't work as well as going through and saying, well, this is what people are going to continue to buy. And so I'm looking at the old book to go through and see what were good categories back then. Some of these are still going to be definitely living on. Some categories will shift and change, but it's a basis to know that if you want to take photographs that you can make money with in stock, these will be better areas to work in. So this time I looked at two more chapters or categories. One they called medicine, and the other one is science and space, which that's going to be that's real different because we don't really think of space anymore, but this was still finishing up the space age. So within medicine, it was 18 pages. Science and space was 4 pages. So with medicine, what do we know now? Is it what we want? How do we survive it? Will it save us? We don't do it alone. Okay, looking at this, some observations I had were people in white coats. So medicine, especially at that time, represented everybody in a white coat. It was high-tech machines. I mean, the MRIs and some of these other CAT scan things were coming in, and that was really revolutionizing medicine, to be able to be non-invasive, to look inside people, see what's going on. So those were big categories. You kind of had with corporate, you had this with medicine. You had your team together. So you had pictures of people in white coats and people in smocks, and that represented your team. You had pills, still goes on with pills, operating rooms, exam rooms, caring for patients. Most of these looked pretty staged and fakey, and nothing looked that real. And I know that's generally seen calls within the microstock area that they want things that look real, look natural, don't look staged. And this kind of represents the era when a lot of stuff was staged, and it gave kind of the stock images their kind of reputation of being these pretty staged things. Everybody perfect and everybody attractive, and just doesn't look real. And so it's not convincing if you're trying to work with something like that. I got doing lab work. They also have people looking hurt and looking ill, looking injured. So kind of portraying that you got a cold, you got sniffles, you got a pulled muscle, whatever your aches and pains may be, and being worried about that. Again, they also were showing, all this imaging was coming in. They were working the image results into the photograph. So people are examining, all the X-rays from the CAT scan. So the imaging behind things. Family medicine going on, working with kids. You had caring for elders. And again, obviously, kids and elders is still going to go on, and medical care is definitely going to be in there. This, again, you have to have probably have to good access to get into it, especially if you want to make it look real. So it's going to be a category that won't be open for everybody to work with. Had your EMTs, so you can still have an emergency response going on, and out in the field, not in a hospital setting. Otherwise, everything else is pretty well in a hospital setting. Giving a shot, I mean, that still is trauma for everybody, so they still got, that's still going to go on. you've got people in rehab that going through and showing them working, trying to learn to walk again, trying to do different rehab areas. So what I didn't see, again, this was all pretty well major medical. What I didn't see was anything for dental. People didn't have teeth problems back then. Nothing for massage. Nothing for chiropractors. No alternative medicines. No preventive medicine. No home health care. Nothing along that line, which I think we're understanding more, especially preventative, and trying to do more with it and what you can do yourself without relying upon big institutional medicine. No specialties. This is all kind of your mainstream hospital, doctor office kind of thing. So you weren't seeing very little bit, maybe a little bit with cataract surgery or eye exam, but nothing that might be kidney dialysis, any kind of stuff outside that setting. And I think that's going to change, or that's changing on it. So the observations, what they had, again, it's for me, I kind of know pretty quickly I'm not going to have access to a lot of that. Now, there is some things I can say, okay, I recognize this. I'm not in that institution on that, so I'm not going to be able to come up with realistic shots for that. But I am in areas where I might have emergency stuff. So we got a certain amount with backcountry wilderness, being a first responder in the backcountry. And so areas like that, I might say, okay, well, how can I incorporate the idea of getting images of medical in the backcountry? And how will that work? Again, it's going to be a smaller market. Looking for these smaller niche markets on the fringe of a major market might be where you have to go, because major markets may be tied up with these big forming corporate studios that are happening around the world to shoot stock, and they may tie up the major areas. Okay, now science and space. Is it the future? Where has it gone wrong? Will it make tomorrow better? What is it up to today? Okay, so this was interesting because this was back with space launches. I mean, NASA was still sending things up. And it hadn't come into the time when it had gone more private on it, which we're seeing that happen more. And it was still exotic enough that people were viewing that as the leading edge of high technology. And I think all that's pretty well faded. So I don't know how much demand for space is going to be there. Certainly probably not what was around before, unless some real changes come, or unless new opportunities, something happens that really changes the ball game. The science part is one which one that we should be more aware of. I don't think, again, it's opportunities to get into real areas of science to be able to see what they're doing. This stuff was pretty well, people at microscopes, test tubes, lab coats, it was pretty staged on it. Again, I don't think they had the opportunities to get into that. Most of that was still being done for magazines and done by assignment work for those specialty magazines. So the stock wasn't, I think, as a viable area for that. But they had that as a category. And again, it could be still an interesting, but you have to have a specialty knowledge base to be able to work in that area. So what they had, I thought, was pretty weak and pretty fakey. And there's no DNA. So DNA has been kind of the revolutionary thing that's kind of taken place. So that's that's one. Again, I don't know how much opportunity I'll have with that. There may be some biology in the field. There may be some fish hatchery things. Other people may be right in the heart of it. And that would be right where they can go through and really build out and come to dominate a category within that, and have have that be their category that they've got locked up in the stock agencies. So, okay, so 2 more. Gone through those, and hopefully this has been helpful for you. I'm continuing to learn all the time and readjust my approaches in photographing for stock. And I thank you for watching.